So, good morning, and thank you for coming today, because I really appreciate being able to talk about inclusion. As you'll see through my story, it's not something that has always been so easy for me to talk about, so I really appreciate you waking up bright and early and coming to listen to me speak about my journey and my life. I hate PowerPoint slides, so I did put them together. I did my homework, but you don't really need to pay attention to them if you don't want to. Do you want to join them? Sorry, I want Sharna to come and join the party. I was telling Ruth earlier that I come from the U.S. I come from the U.S., so my friends are my family, so I want my family front and center. Sorry. So my name's Kisha, and in the order that people usually see me, I'm a mixed-race woman, and then if you get to know me, I'm also an engineer, activist, trustee, and community builder. I just wanted to set up some guidelines, because inclusion is not always an easy thing to talk about. I'm not here to give you quick wins or answers. I'm just telling you my story as I see it today. So if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have told my story in a completely different way. And if you asked me a year from now, I'll tell it another way. So it's just how I see it today from my experiences. So that's a bit of guidelines. Please don't ask me for answers, because I don't know. So in order to tell my story, you kind of need to know a bit about me and my context and my background, because I'm not very British. I'm actually quite American. I'm from a small city in Indiana town called Fountain City. The population is about 767, and there are about 765 white people. And there were 2 black people, myself and my brother. The nearest metropolitan city was Indianapolis, and it was right in the middle there, and that's Indianapolis, and it was about the size of Sheffield, and probably the same kind of like culture as Sheffield. And I only went there twice in my life, like growing up before the age of 18, and that was on school trips. So the only people I saw while I was there were the people from my school and my teachers. So that's my upbringing up to about the age of 16, 17. And then my family, my beautiful family, this is my youngest brother. He's 7 years younger. He still lives at home, and I'm very proud of him for that, because it's very un-American. He didn't go to university. He made that decision himself not to go to university, even though every person in his family had tried at some point and failed, except for me, to go to university. So that's my youngest brother. And then my mom tried to go to university, partied a lot, dropped out, got knocked up out of wedlock, and kind of embarrassed the family. And I'm really proud of her for that, because it takes a lot of guts, right? And then that's my brother. He is 18 months younger than me. He tried to go to university, failed, not because he partied, just because he's lazy. So he left, and he decided to join the military, because that's what you do when you're lazy, right? He was actually really, really good at doing what he did in the military. But then he was medically released because he has early onset Parkinson's. So he's doing really, really well. He's very optimistic, but he has his own struggles. But that's his lovely wife, Holly. And then my dad, you can see my dad is white. That's because he's my stepdad, but he's kind of taken me under his wing. My dad left school in the 8th grade to get a job so he could support his family. So my dad can barely read, can barely write, but he's amazing at what he does. He works at a golf course. He's a mechanic. But he's worked his way up into the ranks, and now he's the superintendent with an 8th grade education. Like, my dad's pretty awesome. And then this is Jack. I've met Jack twice. Jack's a brother I've never met before. He's coming to my wedding. I'm quite nervous and being very British about how do I say, can I just have a photo with the siblings I know? My parents have done it's harsh, but it's true, isn't it? But my parents do foster care, and they've done foster care since I was very young. So he's the first sibling that I haven't met, but I really do want him to be part of the family, and that's important to how I was brought up. So that's my family. I grew up in poverty. Oh yeah, 30% of the people that I grew up with, I'm going to press that. 30% of the people I grew up with, so there are 6 small communities about the same size, plus the city, that's 50,000 people. 30% of the children grew up in poverty. That's 1 in 3, and I was one of those. So that gives you a bit more background. So it's an average family, really. We're not so crazy. So I want to go into what I wanted to, let's go a bit happier, what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be the president. I was 5 years old, right? And I had a tantrum at school, and my grandma came, and the teacher looked at my grandma and said, she's really bossy and stubborn. She knows what she wants. She's going to be the first woman president. So whenever anyone ever told me I was bossy and stubborn, I went, so what? I'm going to be the first president. So I have these little notes I'm going to keep reminding myself. So I found out this thing called president existed at 5 years old. It was accessible to me. It was a job that I could have because someone told me I could. And I had the confidence within myself. I knew I had a skill of being stubborn and bossy that meant I could succeed at this job. So, president. And this is the only story that doesn't match the pattern because it hasn't quite played out yet. I'm not president. But I did make a decision when I was 16 years old that I did not want to go into politics because I had an experience, and I decided in my own will that that's not the lifestyle I wanted. So that is the only, but I have faith that maybe I'll change my mind because I really want Michelle Obama to change her mind. But then I also wanted to be Destiny's Child. It didn't matter which one, just at least one of them. Now it's Beyonce. I'd like to be Beyonce. But I wanted to be one of them because they could sing, they could dance, they looked like me, they were pretty awesome. I wanted to be Destiny's Child. But then someone told me that I either had to be talented or have a lot of money. I wasn't really talented. I didn't get the school play head singer part, so I wasn't talented, and we definitely did not have money, so cross that off the list. I cannot be Destiny's Child, right? And then, all right, I'll be an astronaut. I decided I wanted to be an astronaut because I had a really cool science teacher, and she showed me that, astronauts, they look at the constellations, they look at rocks. Here's a career that exists. There's an opportunity. I could do that, and I have the skills because I can look at rocks and I know all my constellations. I'm going to be an astronaut. Until someone said, well, you also have to be strong and you have to have good eyesight. Well, I definitely don't have good eyesight, and I don't really like sports, so there's no way I can be strong. So I just crossed it off the list. I'm not going to be an astronaut. So you've heard a lot about the things that I wanted to become, but I didn't because people said I couldn't. So should we try to be a bit more positive about it? Okay, let's go. Let's see. What I did become. So I couldn't find a picture. There's another picture that leads up to all of this. When I was in school, there was a poster walking down the hall that said Explorer College. Side note, college means university, so I don't have to keep going back and forth between the words. So there's a thing that said Explorer College. And I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to be the first person in my family to go to college. Like, I'll have a go at this. So I took the pamphlet home and I showed my parents. I said, yeah, that's a good idea, but it costs $2,000 for 2 weeks for you to explore college. Okay, can I apply anyway and just see if they accept me at least? Yeah, you can do that. Quietly behind the scenes, my dad took this pamphlet to work because he knew that working at a country club, people would know about it, and he knew that there was a man that was on the board of that college, and he showed him, and he said, bring her to my house and tell her to bring a report card. So my dad comes, tells me this, I'm like, yes, I have straight A's. I'm going to nail this. No problem. So I go, and his name's Andrew Cecier, and he looked at my report card. He had a little conversation with me, and he said, I'll pay for it. So for 3 summers in a row, this man paid for me to go explore a college for 2 weeks, pay $2,000 each year. It was set. If I wanted to go to that university, they knew me like the back of a book. I was going to university, no questions about it. But through that, there's more important stories. So each summer, I learned something new about myself. The first summer I went, I learned that I really like boys. And I learned that people like mixed race people. I wasn't helpless. I would be able to fall in love one day. It wasn't just these white people that don't believe in mixing races. So I like boys. And there's this program called the United States Senate Page Program. And so I learned that career existed. And they're like, yeah, of course you could apply it. You've done history class, you know a little bit about politics. You could do that. Yeah. And then so I had that confidence within myself to say, I could achieve that. So I went ahead and applied, and I went and I was a United States Senate page. I was one of 30 16-year-olds in the United States to go work there. I got to meet Senator John McCain, the longest serving senator, Senator Byrd, I hung out with Joe Biden at midnight while he told us stories. So I had an amazing experience. And then while I was a page, I had a teacher, and I always say his name wrong, Mr. Swalina. And he said, "Oh, you're really good at maths, you should be an engineer." What's an engineer? I don't know what that is. And he goes, "Oh, it's someone that likes maths, likes talking to people, and can solve problems." Well, I can do that. I've done all those things. I can do that. So I had this confidence within myself. This career existed, and it was accessible to me. I didn't know too much more about it, but what the heck? No one else told me what else I could be, so I'll go be an engineer. So I went and I got my engineering degree, and I had some really, really cool jobs during it. So let's go back to this Explorer College. I said I learned things each summer, right? So I met this really amazing mixed race woman who had dreads, and so for the longest time I also wanted dreads. I didn't go down that route. Maybe I should one day, I don't know. But she traveled the world, and she went to countries where she couldn't speak the language because she really liked to be able to communicate with people using body language and food and culture and not just words. So I thought, that's sick. Like, all I've ever known is all these white people. There are other countries that exist that are first world, like you can enjoy life. They're not just poor in Africa, and they have television. Like, I literally thought Germany did not have TVs. Not kidding. Like, that's the level I was at. England would be helpless because that would just be Harry Potter, right? We'd all be in danger. So I went and I traveled the world. I lived in Germany for a year, and I learned the language. I lived with a family that didn't speak any English, and I learned on the go. So through all these things, I learned that there were things that existed. Actually, I'll keep going. So also, I lived in Indiana. It's really flat. I wanted to see the hills, and I wanted to always live somewhere where you could go out, you could enjoy your life, and just breathe the air, and you wouldn't have to worry about money all the time. You could just be alive. And then this is not a picture of me graduating. It's actually a picture of the first time I truly felt badass in my own skin. That is the closest I'll ever be to being Beyonce. And my mom's hung that picture up in her living room, so that, like, how cool is that? So for each of these, someone told me, you don't have to just be CEO and work really, really hard your whole life. You can actually just, like, settle for mediocre and just enjoy life. Like, you don't have to be the absolute best at everything. So that was something I didn't know existed. I thought I just had to work really hard. It was accessible to me because I had a degree, so I could get any job that I really wanted that was at a baseline salary. And I had the confidence within myself to just go out and wander and explore and see new cities. Right. Now, this is me today, so I don't have too much to say. So I am an entrepreneur and a trustee, and I really, really enjoy being a community builder. When I moved to Sheffield, I came to get my degree so that I could be closer to my partner, if I'm really honest. And I really, really, really love Sheffield, so I wanted to be here. I thought entrepreneurship was something that was for 40, 50-year-olds who had a bit of cash in their pocket and wanted a change in life. I didn't know that it could be for me too, so I went to this thing called Startup Week in Sheffield. Has anyone heard of it? Startup Week in Sheffield? Yeah? So I went to Startup Week in Sheffield, and I met Sam Deacon, and she showed me that, you know, there's this thing that exists, entrepreneurship. You can do it. It's accessible to 20-somethings, and over the weekend I learned that I have the skills within myself to do that. So I went and I started a business, Brightbox Makerspace, and I made zero money the first year. I just spent a lot of money going into deprived communities, disadvantaged communities, and letting kids learn science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths in a really fun and inclusive environment where they could see that the career exists, that it was accessible to them, and that they were perfectly capable of doing it themselves. So that's those pictures. And then the trustee position. So along the way, I've learned a lot since that day one. I've met people like Emma Cooper, who encouraged me to just take that step and make bold decisions. Ruth, who encouraged me to go ahead and do whatever thought was in my head, because I am my only barrier, not to worry about other people. Laura, so there's a trustee position. It comes up on Facebook, so I know the opportunity exists. But should I apply for it? Ooh, I don't know. And then Laura was like, yeah, just do it. They need people like you. They need young people who have different thoughts. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and apply. And so now I'm a trustee at Museum Sheffield, and they definitely need me. I met Sharna. She looks like me. She has like a crazy career. She does everything that she wants. So those little people that show me that these different lifestyles exist, that they're accessible to me, and I'm perfectly capable of doing them. So that's what I became. So I've already said this a million times. What did I need to do to like make my journey through life? I needed to know that the opportunity existed in the first place, whether it be on Facebook, a poster, and a textbook, seeing someone. I needed to know that it was accessible to me. So it needed to be within the vicinity. I needed to be able to get on a bus. I needed to be able to apply for it, have the funding. And then I needed to have the tools in myself, like grit and determination and understanding and experience, to know that I was capable of achieving that thing. Okay, that's important. This is important. So imagine if all young people knew that, our career options are limitless. Like in the creative industry, there's so many different types of ways of doing things. There's not just a single job title. Sometimes it's really difficult to explain what we do. So what if they knew that their career options were limitless, that the opportunities were accessible to them, that they were invited and that they could do it? And then what if they believed in themselves that they were capable of doing those things? And that's what I do. So we go into communities to make it accessible and to share that there are different types of careers in science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths, and we combine them, and we try to use language that they can then take away so that they know that they're capable of doing anything. So these are I just chose 2 examples, and you can see the pictures aren't very nice because we go into their communities and it's really hard to take a photo when the background is quite magnolia. So we always have someone in the community that is part of that community, that's a champion for that community, so that they see someone that's familiar, that looks like them, that sounds like them. So this is Jonathan. And then this is Callum. Now Callum is a handful. He drives me, do you know Callum? He drives me up the wall. But he needs us. Like, he doesn't get any access to the things that you usually have to pay for. He doesn't get to go to summer camp. In the summertime, when he comes, he just gets signed off. Yep, he can leave on his own. He's 7. He can just leave on his own, go into the street, walk home. And that's the kind of freedom that's afforded. Like, I had that freedom when I was younger, and I do not regret it at all. I think it's really good, but it's just a bit different. But he really needs a lot of encouragement. He needs to be told, this is accessible to you. You can do this. You already have the knowledge within you to do it. What have you done in the past to help you get to this point? So we try to use language that supports them when we leave. You already have done something in the past that has helped you get to this step. How did you solve that problem? What did you use? Oh, you saw that on TV and then you used it here. How clever. You used the tools that you already know. You did not learn that from me. You already knew that yourself. And then this is like one of my absolute favorite stories, but also really sad. This is me, and then this little girl here, who you can't see, she was telling me a story about how in school she had to write a story about something that would do something for her. So I said, oh, so you're building a robot? And she's, robot? I can't build robots. I'm just a girl. I can't do that. It's like, well, of course you can. You already have. So I asked her to build a prototype, and I explained what the word prototype means. It's the first version of something. And so I had to build a prototype of her robot out of Lego. And before you knew it, she was talking, not just talking about how it would cook and clean for her, like in her story, but she was saying it was play football with her, because that's something that she's interested in, is football, not cooking and cleaning like she was before. So it's always about bringing it back to them, showing it's accessible to them, it's relevant to them, and using the language so that they can propel themselves forward. So what do I do with Brightbox and with Girls with Drills? We go into communities so that things are accessible. We always have a role model there that looks like them, sounds like them, that's from their community, something, so that they can be that thing, because you can't be what you can't see. And then we allow for agency. Like when we do our Girls with Drills workshops, I do not touch the tools. I go like this. I say, press that button and move that switch and hold it that way. but I don't touch, or I say, try it. Just try it. You're not going to hurt anything. I don't do it for them. So it's a child-led approach with constructive language. And then there are lots of other things that I probably do that I don't even realize that's really helpful or not helpful. So there are 3 things. I was told in a book that I should break it down into 3 points. Those are the 3 points, and that's the caveat. Can I make it loop? There we go. So thanks. That's all I have to say. That's all. This is like my all-time favorite video. I hate the song, but I love the video. But yeah, that's all I have to say about inclusion. That's my story. I hope you've gained something from it. And then that's how I run my business, Brightbox, and then Girls with Drills with Ruth, is in a way that it's accessible. You can always see that it's there, and you can find the tools and the strength and the grit within yourself to know that you can do it. That's it.